Good morning. Today on Lucky Trader Lounge, we will be talking about the upcoming week in NFTs. We'll talk about what happened this past weekend. We'll show the Yuga trailer and talk about what that means for the future of NFTs.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on to the other side, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side, yeah. We chased our pleasures here, dug our treasures there, but can you still recall the time we cried? Break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side. Break on through, break on through, break on through, break on through. Hey, 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 hey.
So that was the trailer for Yuga Labs. It was pretty big when it hopped on, and I think that was pretty much the talk of the town this weekend. You know, it popped out where it was somewhat of a teaser at first, and people weren't sure if it was real or not. Then there were a couple tweets that popped out as the full video, not just the little images that we talked about on Thursday. So, what was your initial take from this video?
It was awesome. It was so well done, and I couldn't be more excited about Yuga Land. I think this drop is just going to go absolutely bananas. It's going to be the biggest drop of April for sure, and I think we're already starting to see some potential impacts in the market for that. I'm definitely excited to break it all down with you.
Yeah. I think it was initially people were kind of, let's see, there's all these different collections that are in that one image with the submarine. You have the Cool Cats and World of Women and the Nouns, and people were really excited. Oh, if our collection, or if I'm a holder of that collection, like that's going to be beneficial to me, which I think, I mean, we could talk about that as well. But initially it seemed like all those projects pumped, and then people started questioning, well, what does it mean? Like, does this mean Yuga is going to be buying them out? Because we saw that happen with the punks, which are in there. I think I'm of a differing opinion, but they were really pushing this idea of the other side. And obviously that's where the song was that they're part of in there. And then pretty much, in my opinion, like it seems like that's what they might be calling this land, the metaverse as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think of the collections that were in there? Did they pump correctly or what?
I think incorrectly is probably my take, and my reaction after digesting it over the weekend is I think those are likely hints at some of the first NFTs that you will be able to play your character as in Yugaverse or the other side. If we want to start calling it the other side, if that's going to be the name of the metaverse, that you'll be able to represent yourself in the other side using those PFPs to start. Kind of similar to what World Wide Web Land, did with them rolling out their NFT collections. So if you're a buyer of those NFTs, right, you're expecting more on the news Friday evening after the trailer dropped. you're probably expecting more than that, right? So maybe potential whitelist. Certainly can't be expecting an airdrop. I guess you mentioned, maybe alluding to an acquisition. And we'd heard rumors of Cool Cats and World of Women potentially being on the acquisition list. But to me, seeing that the toads and the nouns there kind of dismiss that a little bit. So I'm not, just on this video, I'm no longer thinking that this is the hint at acquisition, even though that could certainly be on the table. So I don't think the pump was wise, and we've certainly seen a lot of it retrace, except for World of Women, which has actually held up pretty strong. It's sitting at 12.5 this morning.
Yeah, and it seems like the take, at least as far as what I've seen, is World of Women is still going to be a part either way because of their ties in already to Yuga Labs. So maybe people are just repricing them to include that, whereas before it wasn't priced in. I think we talked about that on Thursday, where it was at like 8-9, and that's the only one that has stayed up since.
But what I could see is Yuga launching their own marketplace priced in Apecoin, and those collections being the flagship day one collections that you can buy in their marketplace, and potentially get a rebate in Ape, or I'm sure there would be some type of incentive for users to trade on that marketplace. And if that comes to fruition, I mean, OpenSea is under serious attack. I mean, those are 7 of the top 15 probably collections by gross volume. I'd have to check. I mean, Azuki's is top 10, Doodles is 11, I think.
Them and Clonex. Yeah, those three.
Yeah, Clonex, of course. Yeah, so they basically have everything besides Clonex, Doodles, and Azuki's on the top end. So that's a huge chunk of the NFT marketplace volume. So it's substantial.
And we have the question here that's is Yuga versus World Wide Web 3, and my take on that is it's going to be hard for other metaverses that are smaller to come out of this. I think something like NFT Worlds that's built using Minecraft is probably okay, and then like Sandbox, Decentraland, I think are. But is this going to take away those players that are like the World Wide Web, who has been gaining a little bit more recently, and your ability to bring on these other collections? But they have collections more like Little Lemon Friends. If Yuga is bringing in these collections that are these 10 plus Ethereum floor type of collections, then I'm not sure, like, will the little players be able to compete?
No, unfortunately, they're going to be destroyed by this. And a part of the reason why, like, my personal metaverse trading strategy has been to sell whenever they get to about 2 ETH4, because I always thought there was going to be a big player that comes into the metaverse place and disrupts everything in the future. And I don't know if Yuga is actually the end boss in this metaverse game, but they're definitely the current boss, and they're a lot tougher than the products that we've seen. So I think Webland can compete with like Treeverse, but they're all second or third tier below Yuga Land at this point, at least from the hype and anticipation that we're seeing. But I do think a potential out for those projects is if Yuga Land just skyrockets, and if it's at 8-10 ETH floor to get in, then that opens the door again, right, for the lower entry metaverse plays, because those plays are still popular. They're not going anywhere. It's still one of the biggest buzzwords in NFTs. So I think that's a scenario where they could still succeed. But if Yuga Land is 2 or 3 ETH, everyone's dumping their Webland and going to Yuga Land. I think that's a fact.
Yeah. And I think that the fact that Cool Cats was one of them in that video kind of makes the theories a little more like directed, where they already have their own token with Milk, and they've been planning out their whole ecosystem around it. So it's hard to really think that they're just going to dump that immediately and go into Ape. And, maybe they will. Maybe they just have found that the building over there might be better for building out a game. And who knows? But I think part of it, where they're coming on a submarine from outside of it, that side of it, because it seems like this was a pretty well done video. And I think, if they're gonna tease stuff, they think it through. It's something that the team has done pretty well over time when they do these sort of teasers, to give you just enough information that you don't know all the details. So to me, it felt more like when Coinbase NFT says, "Oh, we're partnering with XYZ project." I felt it was more like that, as you mentioned, like these are going to be available and connected, but it's not necessarily saying buy out. Like Yuga can't just buy out all these projects either.
Right.
So
I think
yet.
Another cool part of the trailer, and you're so spot on that, of course, like everything that's in the trailer is thoughtful. They showed us things they wanted to show, and there were hints at certain things. And I think we got our first glimpse at Coda, right? So we were breaking down that leaked roadmap. We saw the potential Coda mint in May. It seems like that might have been maybe a red herring to throw us off. So I can maybe jump into the screen share. So that full pitch deck has now leaked, and give me one sec. And if folks haven't seen that yet, Leonidas NFT, he posted all 90 slides.
Yeah, it's so wild.
To his Twitter. I'm not going to go through all of it, but they're on starting on 74. They go through the full details on the land drop. It's still called Meta RPG, so I feel like that name has probably changed at this point. But 200K plots, 30% to BAYC, MIYC holders, 70% to the public. Then they start getting into the rarity, and it looks like, I think this is where the mint gets fun, is that there's going to be different rarities in the Yugaverse plots, and also Coda is built into that. So the way that I've read it is there's going to be 10,000 Codas, and they're going to come with the plots. So if this first mint is 100K plots, we can expect, a 5 or 10% shot at Coda in there. So there's the rare lotto right there.
Yeah.
And that's going to get people excited to come in and mint. So
that's something we haven't really seen before either. Like, oh, you buy a plot of land and you get an NFT with it. It does seem like that was hinted at in the video as well, where like the little guy was on the outside of the submarine, like bringing them over to you in a way. So maybe that's how maybe everyone gets a little submarine too in your way to go from one place to another. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like this. Have we seen any other NFT like metaverse play do incorporate this type of rarity and differentiation in the world yet? Either like I feel like I haven't seen that.
Well, like with the turf plots, it's kind of they have rarity built in, but you're not.
True.
I feel like they all have somewhat of it, where whether they have like a size differentiator or like things on the plot, whether or not you're building it up over time. Like I know the pixel multiverse or whatever it's called. They have, you can buy stuff to add to your plot, and then you can, when you go to sell it, that's added to the traits that pop up. So not exactly in the same way, but yeah, I think that'll be something that will get people excited. So then my next question, this can now we can transition a little into what's coming up, but do we think Apecoin is now going to be like the thing where if you're not attached to it, then you fail behind? So we saw the Benji bananas drop. It was only 25 ape each, which I think at the time was around $200. So it was about $200 to mint, and then the floor in those were immediately 0.3. So do you think we're going to see a lot more of these ape-centric mints? I know there's the potential that it's going to be part of the land in order to buy land. So what do you think we're going to see at least in the short term?
I do, and we've already seen that second, like the arcade game that had some of the 3D ape PFPs embedded. So I think we'll see more. I also think Yuga will be somewhat careful and selective and not drop 5 per week. And I think because the market would saturate for one, I mean a lot of people are buying and accumulating ape right now. I don't think they want to spend it on a dozen Benji games with this potential land drop coming up in April. It could be as soon as a week and a half from now. Originally, we thought it was going to be into March. That's a huge question looming over the NFT market right now. Is April what? Is it April 1st or April 30th? Because I think we've already seen some collections start to sell off as people accumulate and plan ahead of that. So I'll be surprised, to answer your question, if there's too many ape drops ahead of the land sale. But after that, I mean, it's everything from Yuga, everything in this world is going to be priced in ape, and we should just get ready for that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where a lot of people talk about just tailing smart people, and I don't know, it's hard to say if someone's an ape holder that they're a smart person per se, but I think I saw a stat where the top 3 holders of ape, it was Dingling, Journey, and the Mackey brothers, because it was Cape Tan Trippy. It's so funny when you say these out loud, but he was talking about, he was like top 10, I think, too. So he tweeted about it, and then I saw this stat where all 3 of them have over 1 million ape tokens, and the only one, like Mackie was adding to it, and Cape and Trippy was also adding to it. So it was kind of interesting where the people that were at the top level that were already getting all this were the ones that were still most bullish on it. So you think they're going to try to go in pretty ham on that next layer, kind of buying into the idea that you said. I think Dingling might have cashed some of it out. But honestly, for that guy, if he doesn't cash things out ever, I hope he cashes some stuff out, because he's so far ahead, especially with the apes. And I know the that fractional sweep is up for auction, so he'll be getting some of it back then as well. But do you think it's pretty bullish to see a lot of those top 10 are either holding or have been adding ape?
I do, and I absolutely think it's bullish. But quickly aside, I also do not fault any ape owner who sold Apecoin, especially Friday at 15. I mean, that was a primo spot to sell. Also, a lot of those folks, didn't come into the NFT space with hundreds of thousands of dollars to their name or millions, right? And some of them got in at low entry points, and they've held this long. Take some money off the table. That's absolutely a smart thing to do. We were just coming out of a bear market that Yuga potentially saved us from, but it was doom and gloom. Everyone's trying to figure out how they're going to pay their taxes, how they're going to pay their bills. So of course it's always fine to take some off the table. But this is, we're in the first week of an ICO, type launch here. And there's already chatter about, is Apecoin going to be the token of the metaverse? I saw a really nice thread that you shouldn't look at it as a valuation of Yuga, but more of a currency. You should be evaluating it as a currency, and they were comparing it to the US dollar and other things, and how essentially the US dollar got propped up because the United States did a really good job at making other countries use the dollar for trading. And right now, Yuga has a stranglehold on the NFT market. That is a fact. It can't really be, it's not really up for debate. And if they can convince other projects to come into their marketplaces to accept Ape, they're increasing demand for their currency. The value of the currency goes up. So, people who are just pegging the valuation and saying Yuga Labs shouldn't be worth 15 billion, that's not the right way to think about it in my mind. And I'm super bullish. Personally, definitely trying to DCA in and accumulate. It's not a cheap entry right now by any means, but I think that there's just so much potential upside to this token.
My take has sort of been hold some, but I'm not going too heavily on it because we still don't know what type of things you'll be able to use it on or how much of it you need. Like you might only need 100 ape in order to get into this land drop. You might need 1,000, and we just don't know yet. And the price can be volatile, especially in these early days. And then I think it sort of depends on how many other projects decide to adopt it. Does Ape become the Ethereum killer? I mean, it's going to be on ETH, but are people going to be paying in that? Like, I know there's things like subnets that you see in like Avalanche, but I'm not sure. Maybe you'll start paying gas fees in Apecoin.
No, that's the upside.
Yeah.
What's my ape target? It's Ethereum market cap.
Yeah. Cool. So let's get into a little of this upcoming week and see if there's anything that, like, basically, even with what happened in the weekend, we only saw a couple things really mint out, and outside of like established projects, get much of that sort of stimulus trickle down effect. Yeah, so the Juicebox friends and women from Venus have done all right the last couple days, but outside of that, stuff still it's not as much of like a full on bull run as I think some people were expecting or calling on Friday, let's say. So what about the upcoming stuff do you think is somewhat exciting? Because I know you published an article earlier today on this upcoming week.
Yeah, and apologies, my screen share is not working for some reason, but we'll make sure everyone gets the link coming out of this. Before we go look ahead, I think the winner last week is Muri. We have to call it out. Muri NFT by House. It's sitting at a 1.15 ETH floor here this morning, right after the public sale and their mint out structure. It was sitting between 0.4 and 0.6 for a few days, so it's essentially 2x from there. So they seem to be the big winner. Juicebox friends, certainly. I think it was a 0.024 mint. I think with gas, it was around 0.07 is the effective price people were paying. So
it depends. I think I paid like 0.04.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I think it probably depended on like how early in you got, because it did get gassy towards the end.
So then a nice little 2 to 3x potentially for Juicebox friends. So definitely like to see that. This morning, Women from Venus, I didn't include in the article because of just the timing of the drop. I was a little thrown off because the early secondary action wasn't that strong. There was like 70 traded on it this morning. It was at 0.08. So I kind of dismissed it. But then it was up past 0.15 the last time I checked, 308 volume after the
people just keep sweeping it.
So there's clearly some demand for these, well done female projects. So that's definitely going to be one to watch. But getting into the week ahead, it's a lighter week. Absolutely. There's only really a handful of projects that I'm paying any serious attention to. But one of them, Anata, I think is one of the most important, maybe not important, but is one of the best and potential slam dunk opportunities that we've seen in weeks and potentially months. So we've got a link to a demo here. Before we get into that, what is Anata? And I've titled it in the article, The Evolution of PFPs. So this is the founders here from MetaDrop are trying to take the 2D static PFP to the next level. And the term I've already seen coined is virtual identity, or VID for short. But what they've done is essentially create animated NFTs that can connect to your computer's camera or your phone's camera and essentially create an animated version of yourself that you could play as on a Zoom call. I could potentially be using it on the lounge right now if I owned an Anata PFP. And what you would be seeing, Lou, would be my animated Anata NFT character with my voice. It would be moving its head, it would be moving its hands the way that I'm doing, essentially mirroring my actions. And then there's also features like voice modulation. to enhance privacy. So it's the next step forward, I think, for the non-doxed, the anonymous focused kind of niche of Web3, which is definitely a significant part of this market. And we've already seen folks like G Money go on some serious streams with tons of viewers, and he's just got his PFP as his head, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the next step forward to me of that, and that the tech looks pretty good and ready to come out of the gate. So I think this is going to be a heavily anticipated drop here this week.
Yeah, and when I did that, the interview was super nifty. He set his up that way with the PFP. It's really cool, and like you said, just the idea. A lot of people in this space do want to stay anonymous, or at least pseudo anonymous. So the ability to have this and create it towards your identity. So is this not going to be set up as like a rare lotto? Is it going to be curated to, like, say, what the user looks like?
So there's going to be ways that you can customize it, I believe. And I'm still a little bit shaky on some of those details, but no, there will be a rare lotto. So I'm scrolling through the Twitter now. So it's going to be filled with one-of-one pieces. They're all handmade, no generative work, they're saying, and they're going to have additional traits that have different rarities. And they're alluding to, because they want folks to be able to have unique identities. They don't want multiple of the NFTs that look too similar. Essentially, it is my take from that. So there will be a component of some rareness to the traits.
And they have an interesting drop mechanic. It's similar. I think the closest we've seen is the Wassies did this. I think Raid Party might have done it this way too, where they're not doing any sort of whitelists. It's the fair launch, and that's gonna be Thursday at 3. And basically, they're gonna take the top 1,920 bids, which that's the type of thing that gets competitive when they do it that way. It's better than a Dutch auction. People don't fund it as hard because when they pay a lot, they basically just FOMO'd into paying a lot. So it'll be interesting to see where this ends at. I've heard a lot of chatter. People seem pretty hyped about it.
Yeah, it's the fairest launch style, right? Like, you as a user or a buyer, you get to choose what the max you're willing to pay is, and if it makes the cut, then you might even get a discount. You will get a discount unless you are really on the cut line at 1920. And then if you didn't bid enough, you don't get in. And that's just the kind of the reality of that. So, I mean, I guess the complaints, everyone's going to complain for any drop style, right? But, these, without a whitelist, if you have a gas war at this point, it's not even really fair to the common user. Like, they all get botted so hard now at this point that I don't even think it's really realistic for a 2,000 supply project like this with high demands to go to a public mint. And what's also interesting about it is I'm reading through their Medium page. The auction ends at a random time within the last 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
The
you
Westie
can't
did
just
something like that. Oh, over 3 hours though.
So it's a 24-hour period to bid. And then they're saying the auction will end at a random time within the last 3 hours, which you can't wait to the very last minute.
Yeah. I know, if I remember the Wassies one correctly, I think they did it where, it's in the last hour, and it was in like the last 15 minutes. Like, I think you can basically expect it won't be in the first 5 minutes of that 3 hours probably, but
Right.
I do like that when they put it that way. And the thing that's nice about this, which I'm not sure if it was the same for the Wassies or not, I think the Wassies, you paid what your bid was, because they also did the top bids on that automatically got one of one. So,
Okay.
but this one, everyone's going to pay what that lowest bid is.
Yeah.
That made the cut. So that's where, say it's, the lowest bid is 1 ETH. You can't be around for that last 3 hours. You put in like 2.5 ETH. If it ends at 1.5, you're not paying 2.5. So I could see it being higher just for that reason.
Yeah, it's such an interesting dynamic, and we don't really have too many use case examples of this. So I've been struggling to even set an over under. My gut is, and just talking with some friends in the chat this morning, is we set it at 2.5. I'm really hoping it comes in under that. Personally, of course, but I would not be surprised if it's above that, and that feels like a fair line here.
Yeah.
With the hype and demand that I've seen for this one.
Yeah. And just from the other ones that I've seen, like it's likely going to run at the end. Like once it gets to that last 3 hours, like say it's already at 1 ETH, that's when it starts pumping a little. I assume if it's the same way as what the Wassies was, the problem with this one is you usually have to pay gas in order to recreate a new bid. So if you are bidding, just keep that in mind that say you might want to put a little extra on your upping of a bid because you might have to pay like 0.03 in gas to do it as well.
No, that makes sense. I think one cool thing about this is, as I understand it, there is a leaderboard, so you'll be able to see where your position is. You won't the prices will all be hidden, but you will at least be able to see kind of where you're ranking to at least give you some information on how much to potentially up your bid. But that's a good call. Like you don't want to be like, do you really want to fire 10 bids in the last hour?
Right.
And eat 0.3 in gas, or just kind of go a notch higher, right?
That's what I did with the Wassies one. I think I put a bid for like 0.75 when it was at like 0.63 or something going into the last hour. And I was like, all right, this is good. I'll put this bid up. Hopefully it gets to like 0.7 or something. And it got over 0.8 and I didn't notice it. And so I missed out. But I mean, it's tough when you have to like keep adding bids in. So we'll see, but that'll be one to watch. So that's Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. I'd say that's probably the most hyped drop of the week. We have the XCopy, but XCopy one is more of a claim, correct?
Yeah, we don't have a ton of information. I included on here. I mean, for those who follow digital art, crypto art, I mean, XCopy is, to me, he's the GOAT. He's number one. Anytime he comes out with a new drop, there's going to be just a ton of demand. And in the trailer, there's not much info again. It's titled Trader's Redemption. And then in the comments, he says that it's going to have a burn mechanic and only holders of the Afterburn NFT will qualify. So that's one of XCopy's largest additions. It had a 4 ETH floor before this announcement, and then it almost immediately ran to 8 ETH.
Just doubled.
Just doubled on this announcement. So, I mean, right there tells you probably a potential floor price for this trader's piece when it comes out. Now, Grifters had a bit of a rare lotto. So I don't know a whole lot about this drop, but there could be some rarities to this. But still, there aren't that many access points to XCopy below 10 ETH. So even if you don't have an afterburn, right, there's going to be a quick secondary market where there might be some opportunities. So for those who are trying to get some exposure to XCopy, definitely pay attention to this. It's coming on the 24th, but we don't have a whole lot more detail on the time.
Yeah, and we saw that with Drifter shoots. Drifter came out with that. Was that in Vegas? It was like 200 editions, and it came out at 0.25, and people were like, "Oh, I don't want this." But then it's like you mentioned, like there's not many cheap entry points if you want to be a part of one of the top, like one of one NFT artists in the space, and now that's well over 2 ETH. So I think it depends on a couple things here, because I know with XCopy, do you remember what the mint price was for Grifters? It was
0.25.
It was just 0.25. Yeah,
Yep.
and those got up over they got over 10 ETH floor at one point, I think, right?
Yep. So about 2/3 of the supply came out. The floor was sitting around 12. And
Mm,
then it retraced after the final supply came out. It was right in the 6 to 7 ETH range. So right there, for anyone who was looking up to mint, it was a 25x right out the gate. And then over the last week or two, Grifters has been slowly marching upwards. It's back above 10.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, like this went from 4 to 8, so I think expectation is people think it's going to be around that 4 ETH floor, but I mean, we don't have many details. Like this could be a 1,000 count. This could be a 20 count. Like we don't know what type of drop it's going to be. If they're going
Right.
to be like additions, or maybe I don't know. He throws a curveball and there's 20,000 of these things. So it'll be interesting. I think one that holds it back a little bit is the nifty gateway part. We saw that with some, like Pop Wonder had a nifty gateway drop that I wouldn't say it was a fail, because I think everything sold out, and even the like higher end stuff did all right, but I don't think there's much secondary on it because it happened on Nifty. People just don't really pay attention to it as much when it's over there and not done on like OpenSea or their own website. So we'll see how much that affects it. But this one will also be on Thursday, at least expectation is. So that'll be another one to look out for. As you mentioned here, like XCopy one of ones are hundreds of ETH. So definitely one of the big, when people talk about if they want to have an NFT artist long term, like XCopy is one of the top end as far as one of ones. So then let's get into this Peekaboo one, because I think this is interesting. It's a different style. It's P2E, play to earn, and they're calling it's kind of like a hide and seek game. So what was your take on this one? Because it's a little higher count. There's a lot more going on.
It is. So I want to give a shout out to the Treasure DAO ecosystem. So it's starting to pick up over there. So, it started really back in November. That's when the Bridge World NFTs were starting to come out. Small Brains came out in November. And there was a bit of a lull. Battlefly came out just in the past few weeks. And the model in Treasure Eco, for those who aren't familiar, is free mints. And they are whitelist. So you have to do a bit of work to get on the whitelist for those. And they're all different depending on the project. But Battlefly sits at like 120 magic floor right now from a free mint. And magic is around, we'll just call it $3. It's a little bit below $3. So that's $360 for a free mint. Peekaboo is following that similar free mint model. So there's going to be 20,000 NFTs in total. 10,000 are going to be free mint right out of the gate. And it is a play to earn game, kind of in the, which is probably one of the more frequent models that we see in Treasure DAO. They're calling it hide and seek version game, but it's also similar to Battleship, the way that the actual gameplay will work. And there's in their ghost paper, which is their version of a white paper, they show some examples of what the game board looks like, and it'll make a little bit more sense for how the Battleship aspect comes into play. So the way it's going to work is there's two different characters. There's going to 25% are ghosts and 75% are called busters. So those are the two character types. They have different functionalities, different staking aspects, and different roles in the game. Some other aspects of this game and larger ecosystem is there's going to be a coin. It's called the Boo coin, BOO. You can accumulate the coin via gameplay and via winning games. You can also stake NFTs to get the coin. So they lay out the full economics in the ghost paper. I'm not going to get into that, along with all the ways that you can customize the NFTs, all the different tier levels, all of that. So I definitely would suggest go take a look at that ghost paper if you want full detail on this game. But it's now one of the 5th or 6th project now that we've seen launch in the Treasure DAO eco in this free mint style. Battlefly has also introduced NFTs from Treasure, so actual Treasure NFTs can be used as staking bonuses for Battlefly. Peekaboo has already alluded to having similar kind of carryover aspects. They're not fully defined just yet, but it's kind of reinforcing the whole flywheel effect that the Treasure and Magic model is. And certainly, as more projects do well in that ecosystem, it benefits everyone. So I think in that way, it's a little bit different from projects on Ethereum, where it can be viewed a little bit more tribalistically or competitively as like, oh, I want my product to succeed over your project. Whereas in worlds like Treasure, it's to everyone's benefit for all the projects to succeed because it increases the demand for Magic. And it's similar concept as what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, with demand for Apecoin. And I actually think the model that we're seeing play out in the Treasure ecosystem is something that the Apecoin team and Ape DAO might be following. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see similar types of ape-powered P2E games starting to roll out in their ecosystem in a few months.
And this one seems like it's not really a wolf game clone. It's more like an extension of that. So it'll be interesting to get, because there hasn't really been something like this in the Magic ecosystem yet. And
yeah, it's definitely different. It's different than just like your standard like kind of strategy game where you just log in and make a few decisions. Kind of like am I going to quest today? Am I going to craft? That type of thing. It feels like there's a little bit more active gameplay in this, so that's certainly going to be interesting to see, and certainly seems like kind of the first of its kind.
Yeah. Let's pivot for a second here because there's an Art Blocks Curator Drop happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's starting to move a little bit. It's over 100 minted out of the 1,024. It's currently at 1 ETH price. I believe in 3 minutes, I guess would be when it drops next to the 0.75. So this one, another female artist, Emily Chi, and she, let's see if I can find some of these. Oh, I can't see any of the other examples, but yeah, here's the main one. It has a Chinese like background and theme to it. So, oh yeah, it just changed to 0.75. So might start moving here. Not sure if people are paying attention or watching this, but what's your thought on Art Blocks currently? If this goes at 0.75, is that positive? Is that whatever? What's sort of your take on these?
Yeah, first I'm surprised to see 110% minted at 1 ETH already. I thought this was going close to min price just from the general lack of demand that we've seen in the Art Blocks ecosystem, for lack of a better word, over the last few weeks. And it's been quiet over there. That they haven't been doing the weekly drops. And it's definitely true that having the Monday curated drops kind of keeps attention on Art Blocks in the ecosystem, and it definitely kind of benefits everything. It looks like these are going now. So we're 250 minted here at the 0.75 mint price. So it may not go at this level, but it'll probably go at 0.5 is what it's looking like here. But this one totally slipped from my radar. I only realized that we were having a curator drop about an hour ago, right before the show. Just because I've been just so tuned out from generative art, and that market's been so dead. And I think it's just a general question: is Art Blocks going to come back? Everyone asks that question when. I don't really believe it is anytime soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm somewhat watching, and I'm debating if I should go in myself because this one does have it. It has this like Chinese art theme to it and female artists, which in the past, this was like, this is one that would have smashed last summer, I think. So the question is, can it still? in the current state. And I think that's the part that we're just sort of unsure about these days with art blocks in general. And we'll see. I'm sure there'll be people that still go in that were big on art blocks and last year. So I'm not sure. I think it's the type of thing where we just haven't seen one hit recently, but maybe it's been long enough since the last curated that people have the itch again and potentially thinking off of that ape stimulus.
Yeah, so it's definitely a better market to launch in than it would have been, a month ago. And there's definitely more liquidity right now, which is a bonus. We've already seen, some of the punk owner, that type of the NFT collector base, who are a little anti-utility, start to rotate some of their ape proceeds over into art. So we can certainly see some of that. Just from a trading perspective, the price arc from Series 5, the last set, was right after mint out. There would be, I'd say, 4 to 8 hour window of where there would be a lot of demand. They're flying off the shelves. The price is going up. Then the music stops. And then it's essentially slow decline into lower liquidity over the next few days, with a few exceptions. So if you like the art, go for it, buy it. If you're looking to make a trade, just understand that's the price arc that we've seen on a fairly consistent basis.
Yeah.
So just understand your entry and exit points.
Yeah, and they just got over 800, so I think it's pretty much a lock that's going to go out at this 0.75. I wish more of them would load on the screen.
Same.
There's another, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there was another website that used to bring these in real time that was oddly, it was quicker than Artblock's own website. We do have a question. I guess we can touch on this real quick, but Strictly saying had to 2x to catch up, so might have missed if you cover this, but do you feel about the KYC being needed for the BAYC? Other side, did y'all sign up? I think we both have similar takes on this. I'll let you go first because I did just sign up yesterday.
Yep. So I signed up. So I guess first, we don't know 100% confirmed that the KYC that everyone signed up for on that Something is Brewing, the XYZ site, is tied to Yuga Land. That is the current speculation, certainly, but not confirmed. With that being said, I signed up. I absolutely want to be a part of, just about anything that Yuga is bringing forward in the near future on the ground floor, if possible. And I'm totally doxxed out doing these shows a few times a week. I certainly understand those who respect their privacy, who don't want, their information out there. From Yuga's come out and said, or that it's Animoca, it's Animoca's requirement, and that essentially as soon as you finish the sign up process, they delete the data. So I mean, of course, there's always data risks, right? But it seems like there are at least controls in place over there.
Yeah, and I think that was sort of my thinking as well, where it was a little weird how they came out and just tweeted and didn't give that much information on it specifically. But to me, it seems like they're becoming more of like a real company and more like corporate. And these are the types of things that when it comes down to it, we could be a Web3 all we want. But once they start connecting to these Web2 brands, and Animoca has been a piece of like everything recently as well. They've been like a hot teams being attached to them. They had the Rebel bots came out and had funding from Animoca, and they went from 0.2 to 0.4 floor. So I think right now we're kind of in a meta where if you're attached to Yuga, Animoca, is that how you say it? Animoca?
I don't know for sure.
I feel like I say it wrong every time, but yeah, if you're a game, you want to be connected to Animoca, and if you're NFTs, you want to be connected to Yuga Labs. So my thought is you're going to want to participate in some of these things because especially if you're someone that's looking for gains, at least in short term, I think it's going to be a lot harder for these projects that have no connection to be worth holding on to and seeing where they go. As we mentioned earlier with the Benji bananas, they are connected to Yuga and Animoca, and they have a 0.3 floor off of it. So to me, like you said, like I want to be able to participate in these things. And if KYCing now is the way to be able to participate in some of these things in the future, I'd assume there's a reason behind it. It could be because of marketplace or something like that. But to me, it seemed like it was worth it.
Same. And I think all these KYC decisions need to just be taken on a case by case basis. Like, do I want every NFT product to demand KYC? Of course not. Yeah. And I think a large part of the user base will rebel. But this is one of the premier brands, premier companies, and these are the regulations that they feel like they need to abide by. Yeah. So that's the driver.
Yeah. Was there anything else that was coming up this week that you had your eye on or wanted to talk about?
Those are the main things. I think there's two big events kind of looming over the NFT market right now. So one is Artifact's Monolith. For those who've been tailing that market, so the Monolith NFT has started to reveal as folks. There's ways that the owners can go on quests and do things to interact with it. And I'm not an owner, so I'm not super close to it. But as I understand it, it's into its final phase, and it's going to reveal here sometime in the next week or 2 weeks. I'm thinking it's likely next week it's going to reveal. That one is going to be a huge event. And given the popularity of CloneX and its relative stature in the market, I think that's going to be a large liquidity event. And there's also a large overlap between the BAYC user base and CloneX. I want to say it's like 10%. So that's going to be a big event, a lot of liquidity tied to that. And then, of course, Yuga Labs, we talked about it a lot. But I think people will be cautious in how they're using their funds. If they're minting, I can see a lot of folks solely minting and trading to flip up, taking the funds out and accumulating ape ahead of that drop. So I think we'll continue to see that impact in the market. We've already seen the floors start to come down, from some of the weekend highs that we've seen. So, of course, time will tell. We'll see how the daily liquidity looks this week. We're on 4 straight down days from our Friday high, unfortunately, and today looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if that art block selling out fast might pump a little of it. The Thursday seems like the day with the couple drops that we mentioned earlier, and so for this monolith thing, that could pump a decent amount of volume back in as well. My thought on this Apecoin, how that's been just like trading recently. They basically have said this is going to be an April thing, the land, even with that trailer. And so my thought is this is when you want to be DCAing, because there's not like a real reason to be buying it yet. But then once there is, people are going to jump in and start buying it. So I'll probably just slowly add, like maybe if I make sales from other stuff or just from the general like staking rewards or something. Like one thing I was doing over the weekend was I took like the looks rewards that I got and just flip that into ape. So it's like other ways. I'm not like spending just the regular liquid balance, but as I'm getting other stuff, I'm just turning that into ape. And I guess maybe that's a way of me saying maybe I'm more bullish on ape than looks. So we'll see, but that's sort of how I've been doing. Strictly Sports is saying he's hoping to get in between 5 and 8. So I think it's the type of thing that a lot of people are still going to hold, but as you mentioned, like people saw that $15 number and probably went on Uniswap or whatever and saw they could get whatever it was 50 ETH as an ape holder. And now if you go on and you see and it says I don't know 30 ETH, then people might start thinking, and as the number starts going down, maybe they will start selling some of that off. So we'll see how strong the holders are in that sense.
No, I like your strategy a lot. So like the NFT market especially is so announcement driven, it's absurd. So the second that there is any type of Yuga announcement tied to Ape Lands, the Apecoin is going to rip. Like that is absolutely the case. It looks like you're pulling up the decks.
Yeah.
Here we are. So it's basically the price action is in that 97 range, went up to 17 at peak, then 15 Friday morning, and then slow decline to about the 10 to 11 range. We've seen it dip into the nines. I like Strictly Sports' DCA range. I'm similar personally. I think if it gets down to 5, a lot of people are going to move significantly into the coin at that price level. I don't know that we're going to get that low, but of course none of us do. But that would be a very attractive price point. And similar to you, I'm starting to kind of DCA into the Apecoin here where I can.
Yeah. And I just think that kind of what I was saying earlier about just having some for when there's something to act on is my thinking. Like it's not me putting, oh, go buy 10 ETH of this and hope it goes from 10 back up to 15. Like I'm not trying to swing trade it. Personally, I think there was already the opportunity to that like last week when it came out. Like some people got in at around $6 when it was early on and left around that 12 to 15 range. Might be hard to see it pump back up there, but say they come out and you need 500 ape in order to buy a piece of land, or there's different rarities of land and it's like 100, 500, 1000, then you'll start seeing people want to accumulate more. So I just want to get ahead of if I need to add 100 more ape, then I already had 200 ape or whatever, so I just want sort of a base level of it. So we'll see.
Yeah, which is the way to play any type of high conviction project that you believe in, right? The time to buy is not after the announcement. The time to buy is when it's quiet and there's less interest, and just slowly accumulate what makes sense for you, and then hopefully you'll be in good position. I am very curious what the price points of this land sale are going to be, and I'm very nervous it's going to be a Dutch auction. I really hope that it's not.
Yeah. And then the other side of it is all these ape holders just got 10,000 of the tokens. So how do they balance the side of they do want people that don't own apes to be able to get access to this land? Like that's sort of the point of it, is to get more people into the ecosystem. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance the two. Because that's somewhat my concern. Someone like Dingling, who we were showing earlier, like the top 3 all have over 1 million ape. So versus someone that has 100 ape, how can they balance the two? So I think there's going to be some sort of system where maybe the holders get airdropped and can't participate in the other portion of it or something like that. So that's sort of what I've been thinking, but we'll see. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much what we're looking forward to this week. We have a couple weeks left in March here, so we'll see how that Q1 ends. All those projects that have been saying that something's coming out Q1, maybe we'll see a little more information on that. One thing we didn't talk about was the gutter juice, which we didn't really get that much more information over the weekend, but seems to be coming soon. They're aiming to do it before the end of the month as well. So that'll be one to watch. That was pretty much the only other thing that wasn't Yuga related that had any sort of movement this weekend. The cats are back to around 9. I think they got up to 10 at one point. So we'll see. And that's basically the stuff that I've been looking forward to this week. Don't think we're going to be having a show on Thursday. I'll be traveling for the week. going to be in Vegas originally for NFT land. That's not really happening. We'll see if there are still NFT people there, but don't expect to have the show on Thursday. But we do have some other videos that we'll be posting through the week that we filmed last week. So we'll be able to fill in some comments here and there, and obviously follow us on Twitter at Ludog Sherman for me, and it's at Tyler_did_it.
You got it.
So if you guys are interested, you can also check out. Tyler does post. We have these GM articles throughout the week. That's basically what's coming for the day ahead. So make sure you check out that on luckytrader.com. And yeah, besides that, hope everyone has a good week, and good luck out there if you're accumulating ape and trying to get into some of the Yuga related stuff. So we'll catch you guys next time.